You are Locked On Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta and the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jake Mastroianni alongside Grant McAuley, and the Braves on their road trip weren't able to take any momentum out of their Game 2 win in that doubleheader. Maybe it felt like they were finding the timely hits. Maybe the pitching was going to be everything they needed. Well, it wasn't bad in this game, but those timely hits, there just weren't enough of them for the Braves in an extra innings loss to the Chicago Cubs by a 4-3 final score on Monday. We'll break that all down for you. We'll talk about the ins and outs of this one, give you some updates from down on the farm that could be quite encouraging on the injury front. And, of course, we'll get you set up for Game 2 of this 3-game series, which comes your way on Wednesday. Before we get started, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube, and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. The easiest, most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch all your favorite sports and players. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Jake, it was a frustrating day for the Atlanta Braves, who it felt like this game could have gotten out of hand early. It felt like with the wind howling and at Wrigley Field, you'd never know how a game like that's going to go. It ended up being a relatively low-scoring affair, and unfortunately, the Braves were on the lower end of that low-scoring game.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've had to say this a lot lately, but that just wasn't a lot of fun. It's another one of those losses where you feel like the Braves should have won, and they had many chances to win and just weren't able to come up with that big hit, that big out when they needed it.
Yeah, they could have used a couple of big hits. There were a couple of mistakes in this game that also proved costly for the Braves in this 4-3 loss to the Cubs. Again, it was a windy night in the Windy City. I guess that's why they call it that. Braves and Cubs went to extra, Chicago prevailing, being able to produce a run, relatively weak contact in the 10th inning, and that was a theme because the Braves contact in the top half of the 10th, well, it wasn't that hard contact we've been talking about. But, Jake, you're right. The offense, it didn't do enough, and it had plenty of opportunities. 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position, 10 men left on base. That just ain't going to get the job done.
It's not. And what's frustrating to me in this one is we talked yesterday about, how good the top of the lineup's been. Acuna, Ozuna, Olsen really kind of breaking out, and the bottom of the lineup hadn't been doing anything. And now it's the reverse. It's just this team can't get it all synced up together. It's the bottom of the lineup had some good at-bats tonight. Michael Harris with a home run. Orlando Arcia, 2 hits and a home run. But Acuna had a terrible night at the plate. Matt Olson had an awful night at the plate. It's just this offense right now. It's either one or the other. You just can't get it all the way complete up and down the lineup where you're just getting some contributions, here and there at the top and bottom. It just seems like it's either one or the other. And it just, in this game as well, there's so many chances early on. They had plenty of base runners. You mentioned the issues with runners in scoring position. But then the second half of this game, it's like the at-bats just got worse as the game went on. And, I get it. The Cubs are bringing out their best relievers. They're going for the win in this one. As they, coming off an off day, they have all their guys rested, ready to go. But the at-bats just continually got worse. I was encouraged still with what I saw from the offense early in this game because they at least had chances. They were putting pressure on Assad, weren't able to come up with the big hit, but you assume that's going to continue and eventually they're going to get it. But in the second half of the game, there really just wasn't much there.
Yeah, I mean, Assad walked 5 guys on top of allowing the 4 hits, 2 of those home runs, but the home runs didn't come with enough guys on base. There was a 2-run shot in this one, but the Cubs immediately found an answer for it in the bottom half of the second inning, thanks in part to a pass ball by Travis d'Arnaud that it left the door open for the Cubs to get back into this game and ultimately tie it there. Braves go back ahead on a solo homer by Michael Harris in the 4th inning, and then the Cubs cash in on an error by the Braves in the 6th inning with Daysbel Hernandez on the mound and are able to tie things up. Ultimately, it goes to extras. The Braves have a chance to score their runner, and it doesn't happen. And I felt like the 10th, Jake, in a lot of ways, was a microcosm of at least this entire game because, those hits with runners in scoring position, they didn't come. 3 weak ground balls, one of which Marcell Ozuna has done so many things right this year, but trying to take off from second base on a ground ball to short in front of him would not go on the list of the best and most fundamental things he has done this year.
It's almost like he felt bad that he didn't go on the Olsen one, which he shouldn't have gone on that one either. But I feel like that probably would have been a better time to go than the one that he did after that. But, after he didn't go on that one, it kind of felt like, really, I'm assuming he felt like I need to try to get there now, which what does it matter? There's 2 outs at that point. It's still going to take a hit to get you in. But yeah, just bad base running. That whole 10th inning was just terrible. You got a pitcher coming in who has 10 walks to 11 strikeouts on the season, an ERA over 5. And again, Matt Olson, just a terrible night at the plate. And he reaches for ball 4, hits a little tapper there. At the very least, with the lefty up there, you want to try to get that runner over to third. Just a bad at bat. And then Marcell Ozuna makes it even worse. And the next at bat, running into an out there. And then Michael Harris, just a bad at bat himself, swinging at pitches outside of the zone. It's just a terrible top of the 10th. And then you couple that with what happened in the bottom of the 10th and just weak contact. Aaron Bummer makes a great pitch, and it just bounces in the air and nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I feel like Aaron Bummer this year, I know there have been a couple of games where like he's going to wear the loss in this one, and that's going to be the way that people might look at it. But Aaron Bummer, I thought he did a nice job in the 9th. I had no problem running him back out there for the 10th. I thought that the walk was the right setup to try to get the double play. He gets the ground ball. The Braves can't turn 2 there. It just wasn't hit hard enough. Not his fault. Not even an infielder's fault. Just the way that the game went. And then a chopper high off the plate. Even with the infield in, there's nothing the Braves could do to cut down the winning run at home plate. And the Cubs walk off with that 4-3 victory. You brought up the top of the order and what didn't go right tonight, and a lot of it had to do with those guys. There were 3 walks for that crew, top 5 anyway. And then they went 1 for 21. Otherwise, the one hit belonged to Marcell Ozuna, who extended his hitting streak to 14 games. But again, that doesn't really factor much in a day in which you couldn't get that hit, with runners in scoring position when you needed it. Because again, the Braves 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position. I know we've seen some big left on base numbers. I know they left a bunch of guys on the other day when they lost the 6-5 game to the Padres. I guess that was yesterday, but it feels like last week, with the way some of these games drag on and the way that, you just don't have those memorable moments and things that are making you feel like, hey, full day has passed, but just not clicking, Jake. And I don't really know how else to describe it. I've been searching for words. I know you have as well. You're putting out a podcast every day about this. We're doing this show on a regular basis. I got a radio show and a bunch of other things that I'm doing. And I really don't know what else to say other than I feel like this group, the talent can bear out over 162 games. But if you're watching the Atlanta Braves for your enjoyment, you're probably not getting much out of it right now, because it has been very frustrating to see some of these games that are pitched as well as they are. And we'll get to Charlie Morton a little bit later, because I know that might not look like the best start for Charlie, but I do think he did something important tonight. But it's been frustrating to watch this team. I give you all of that to add on whatever you can about this offense, because we've got about 20 more minutes of the show to get through. And I don't know how much more there is to say about what we seem to have gone through on a regular basis this year, other than it just wasn't what we expected.
It's not. And it is frustrating because these guys are supposed to be good, and they're good, and they're talented, and it's just not happening. And I think that makes it even more frustrating. And again, it's just tonight, it was the bottom of the order, getting on base, setting up the top. You had Ronald second and third, 1 out, and he strikes out looking. Now, I tweeted it out. It was some really good pitches and a couple of tough calls that didn't go his way in that at bat, but still, you got to find a way to put the bat on the ball there. Ozzie has been cold lately. He comes up in a couple of clutch 2-out situations after Ronald can't get it done, and he gets out as well. It's just the top of the order not getting it done tonight. But again, I'm still very confident, in this group going forward, and I still think there's been signs here as of late. But it's just nights like this where just, again, that frustration comes back, because the bottom of the order is finally doing their job, and now the top isn't able to drive them in.
And there's been so much of this over the past, really more than a month now. And you look at the last week since Austin Riley's been out of the lineup, and I know it's not all on him, and it's not like he was necessarily the one guy who was hitting and now he's hurt. He was showing some signs, but the Braves were averaging under 3 runs per game since Austin Riley left last Sunday's game against the Mets. And I know going back further than that, really over a month, you're probably looking at about 3.5 runs per game. So when they do have a day like the game 1 of the doubleheader against the Padres and they score 5 times in the early going, you're feeling like, okay, well, maybe this is the moment. But they weren't able to find moments like that in this game, most certainly. Michael Harris did have a solo home run, a couple of punch-outs in this game, though, for him. Orlando Arcia, the 2-run homer and a double, so 2 for 4. He was a guy looking for some base hits because he had cooled off considerably after a good first 3 or 4 weeks on the season. And then Jared Kelenic at the bottom of the order was on twice, 1 for 3 with a walk as well. And I know he's been kind of trying to get himself back on track after doing a really nice job of getting on base early on in the season. But that bottom of the order and what they were able to do did not translate to success in all the opportunities they had at the top half of the order. As far as left on base is concerned, 4 for Ronald, 5 for Ozzie Albies, 5 for Matt Olson, and 3 for Travis d'Arnaud in this one as well. So you had some big hitters up there with some chances to drive in some runs. They just weren't able to get it done on this night. The Cubs, meanwhile, were able to do just enough and push into extra innings and manufacture a run and pick up a 4-3 win. We do have a lot more to talk about on the Braves postcast, even if it may not always feel like we do. We got you covered. We're going to go through the line score, the box score. This one, we'll talk some about what Charlie Morton was able to do for the Braves on this night when it looked like he may not be around for too terribly long. We've got an update on Sean Murphy, who started his rehab assignment in AAA Gwinnett, and we'll take a look ahead to Game 2 of the series. All of that is coming your way on the Braves postcast. If you're struggling to close deals and business-to-business selling is tougher than ever, that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is the sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface those key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Get that 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Get that LinkedIn Sales Navigator to help you sell like a superstar today. Again, linkedin.com/lockedon is where you can get started. Jake, let's look at the box score of this, which I promise I'm not trying to put you through any more pain than you may have already felt in watching this game slip through the Braves' fingers. Atlanta just 3 runs on 5 hits, 1 error. It was costly in this one. As I mentioned, Atlanta left 10 men on base in taking the loss. Braves dropped to 27-18 on the season. Cubs 4 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, and they left 11 men on base, but they had the hits with runners in scoring position when it counted for them. Cubs now 27-22 on the year. Bummer takes the loss, drops to 1-2. Little picks up the win. He is 1-0 on the season. We talked a little bit about the offense. We can stick a pin in that one for now. I want to talk a little bit about what Charlie Morton was able to do in this game, because it looked like, Jake, he might be gone in the second inning because he was up in the mid-50s in pitch count. They had Darius Vines warming in the bullpen. It felt like, hey, you're going to have to tap into that long reliever, and it's going to be interesting to see how they already figure out what they want to do about Thursday and Friday starters. But putting all of that aside, I think what Charlie Morton did tonight was pretty important for this pitching staff, because that could have gotten really out of hand, and he did a nice job of corralling it and finding a way to get through 5 innings. I did not think he was going to be out there to complete 5.
Certainly not after that second inning, where a lot of things just didn't go his way. I mean, there were a couple of pitches in some of those at-bats that were borderline that, again, were called strikes on Ronald, but for whatever reason, when Charlie needed it most, he wasn't able to get those calls at the bottom of the zone. Either way, he did lose it in that inning. He hit a batter, walked a couple. He just wasn't as sharp, but still, I felt like there was a couple of things there that just didn't go his way. A hard hit ball by Dansby to Zach Short, that was a tough play. I'm not saying Short should have made it, but it was at him. He had an opportunity there to make a play and didn't. And then obviously the big error by Travis d'Arnaud, just
fastball,
trying to frame a ball without the ball. I mean, you got to catch the ball first. That's a big error by a really good catcher and a veteran catcher who knows that's a huge mistake, but that just can't happen. And again, for Charlie Morton to not let that unravel, because it could have been a lot worse, I thought that was really good by Charlie, and then to be able to get past that and get through 5 innings where, again, maybe he didn't have his best stuff. I mean, the curveball I thought was really good. 8 whiffs on 15 swings against that curveball tonight. To me, this felt more like 2021, 2022, 2023 Charlie Morton, where he had some swing and miss stuff going, but the walks were in there, the hit batters were in there, just not quite as sharp as we've seen him at times this year. But, all that to say, I feel like he did a good job managing through that, keeping the Braves in the game, making some big pitches when he need to. So you're not going to have it every time out, certainly. But, on a night where maybe he didn't have his best stuff, I thought he did a great job getting through 5 innings with a lead.
Yeah, and I felt like last time out, which was against the Cubs, and that's worth noting as well, whenever a pitcher's got to face the same team and in very short order in consecutive starts, I should say, that can be a bit of a challenge, because what are you going to do differently this time around? Are you really trying to reinvent the wheel, pitch backwards? I mean, what exactly do you want to do to change things up? But do you want to get too far away from what works for you? Probably not. But Charlie in this one allowed just the 4 hits, but there were the 4 walks. They hit batsmen as well, and all of that kind of happening in the second inning. And the way that was transpiring, you said that can't happen on the pass ball. It very much can. You just kind of hope that it doesn't. And a guy like Travis d'Arnaud had to be kicking himself because, like you said, I mean, he's as pro as a pro gets, and he's trying to help Charlie get through that inning and just wasn't able to do his part on that one pitch. And little things in a time where you're really struggling for offense and in a tight game, those turn into really big things. And not to put it all on Travis d'Arnaud, you look at that error in the 6th inning with Daysbel Hernandez on the mound, high pop fly over to the shortstop third base side. Zach Short had it until he didn't, closed his glove on it. It popped out. That got loose, and that ultimately ended up being a play that helped the Cubs to tie up this game. And again, runs are hard to come by. That's the kind of stuff, I think, Jake, that when it's not going right for you, it feels like those things have a way of happening to really compound things and make it a little bit extra frustrating.
I mean, as frustrating as the offense was tonight, and we've talked about that at length, if one of two things happen, the Braves probably win this game. If Zach Short catches a pop-up or if Travis d'Arnaud catches that pitch, Braves probably win this game. And we're probably still frustrated by the offense, but at least it's in a winning game.
Right.
I mean, if one of those two things happen, the Braves win this, and it just didn't. And the defense, had its moments, especially in the outfield. Michael Harris, got to give credit to him. He made 2 brilliant catches out there to save runs. Ronald made a great running catch against the wall in this game as well. But I mean, again, it just comes down to those couple of plays there. And really, I think, the Travis d'Arnaud one, I get it. He was trying to frame a pitch to help Charlie Morton out there. The Zach Short one, that's just got to be caught. I mean,
yeah.
I said that can't happen with Travis d'Arnaud, and you kind of pushed back on that. Well, that can't happen with Zach Short. That has to be a catch. Absolutely. A pop up there has to be a catch. But again, I thought the Braves pitched well enough in this game to win, just weren't able to make a couple of plays there that were the difference.
Yeah, and again, the little things right now are big things for the Braves. But also shout out Matt Olson on a really nice catch, leaping to double off a runner when Jesse Chavez came in. It seemed like, again, every base runner was an opportunity for things to maybe go a little bit more sideways. Instead, Jesse was able to get through an inning on 9 pitches when I didn't feel like after the leadoff walk, it was necessarily going to go that way. But what do I know? Jesse Chavez in a Braves uniform, he just makes it work. And Matt Olson certainly helped out in that frame. So there were some things that happened defensively. Yeah, you brought up Michael Harris, tremendous running catch early on in the game going back, and another one as well. So you expect those kind of things out of them, but I think you have to expect more out of this offense than we're seeing. I mean, we're still waiting on it. Tonight wasn't that night. They definitely had their chances. Orlando Arcia with a 2-run homer and a double in this game. Michael Harris, the home run to left. I thought that was kind of nice to see when Harris is using the whole field. I know we say this about a lot of Braves hitters, but you just feel like maybe they're seeing it a little bit better. And then maybe there's some at-bats where you wonder why in the world certain pitches are being swung at, but that just kind of underscores how difficult things are right now and how difficult this game of baseball is. And as I've said, and I said it on my show on Sunday, baseball is a humbling game and humility is just a pitch away. And for the Braves, it feels like they've gotten a few of those pitches this year. And at some point, you expect that, that role reversal to happen or that course correction to happen. And we're still collectively waiting on this team to, I think, either play up to its talent level or for some of those expected stats to become actual experienced stats.
Yeah, would love for that to happen. I mean, it's just where we are. Again, it's going on a month now, and we're still just waiting on that game. And again, we've seen signs. I mean, some of the signs are there. Look, I know over 14 with runners in scoring position is not fun, but at least they had 14 runners in scoring position. I would almost take that over games like we had last Friday night where there was just nothing from the offense. You're watching 9 innings of baseball, and after the first inning, there was just nothing. So, I mean, there are signs that it's coming. It's just who's going to get that big hit, who's really going to break things open to kind of open up those floodgates. And again, this team is so talented. We know that once that happens, that they can go on huge runs. We know what Ronald can do, what Matt can do, when they get hot. Hopefully Riley's getting back here soon. We'll talk about that here in a second. And hopefully this lineup is getting healthier really soon. But again, it's just, we're still waiting. And again, we talked about this with Ronald the other day too. It's like, he'll have a couple of good games where you're seeing really good at bats, good swings. And then it's nights like tonight where, it's 4 just really bad at bats out of him. And you're just not seeing that consistency 2, 3, 4 games in a row from some of these hitters.
No, you're certainly not. And for Ronald, I know that nobody's more frustrated than he is. You could say the
Yeah.
same thing for Matt Olson, for any of these other guys that have gone in these long, deep freezes. Everybody wants to help the team. They want to do what they can, but right now it's just not happening for whatever reason. Doesn't mean that can't and won't change. I mean, I've said this a lot recently. I don't know that you can hang your hat on it, but the Braves in the month of May have not gotten along the past few years. But when they get to the other side of the adversity that they experienced the month of May, Jake, we've seen some pretty impressive Junes, and by the time it's all done, this Braves team has a chance to win 100 games, and I don't think that's currently slipping through their fingers right now, but nobody, I think, is enjoying going through the valley with the lights off, and the Braves offense is desperately searching for that switch to flip to try to get something going and try to put some light on that path.
Yeah, we know at the beginning of the season, it feels like it's kind of a battle for this team. And then as the weather warms up, we say it all the time, this team usually does as well. Hopefully that's the case. And hopefully we can get through the rest of this month and still just kind of survive. It feels like they've just been in survival mode for the last month. And look, to their credit, I mean, they're still playing 500 baseball over that stretch. And the offense has been bottom 5, maybe even bottom 3 in all of baseball. And they've still been able to survive that stretch. So you can get through this and turn things around, get into the summer months where this Braves team typically does take off. I still feel really good about this team's chances of winning 100 games. I know maybe it doesn't look like it in the NL East right now, but I still like their chances to get back and potentially win the NL East, get into the postseason, and do everything that they hope to accomplish when the season started.
Yeah, and crazier things have happened. We saw that not long ago. The Braves could maybe dig themselves into a hole and find a way out of it and find a way to win the division in a crazy way and find their way back into the postseason. And I know that's obviously all out there in front of them and things we can talk about as the season bears on and we see what exactly this club is truly made of as they get through the 162, which typically will tell you everything you need to know about a club and its abilities. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, though, we will talk about the Game 2 matchup that we'll see Max Fried on the hill for the Braves. We've also got some injury updates. One especially encouraging happening down in AAA Gwinnett for Sean Murphy, who began his rehab. We'll tell you about that on the other side of this break. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. Baseball is in full swing. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less, add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Download the app, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. That is LOCKEDONMLB in the Prize Picks app, and use that code LOCKEDONMLB for that first deposit match of up to $100. All right, game 2 of this 3-game series will be coming your way on Wednesday evening, a 7:40 p.m. Eastern time first pitch. Kind of strange to have back-to-back night games at Wrigley Field. I don't think we've done that in a while, but hey, you'll take them when they're lined up. And for the Braves, they would like to take a win behind Max Fried, who will be on the mound in this one. Other notable story, though, for the Braves on Tuesday was happening up in Gwinnett as Sean Murphy was behind the plate. He ended up catching 7 innings. I caught his pregame comments, Jake. He said the idea is to catch 5 innings. He went 1 for 3, launched a 450-foot home run. The arm's still good, threw out a runner trying to steal, checked a lot of boxes, and I'm expecting this to last for the better part of this road trip, but the Braves could have Sean Murphy back by the time that they get home from this road trip, and that is nothing but a win for an offense searching for answers to go ahead and bring back a 20-homer hitter with an 850 OPS from a year ago.
Yeah, and when you see a night like that with Sean Murphy after a night the Braves just had, you want him up right now. But yeah, it's likely going to be at least a week long rehab stint for him as he's been out for a while. But great to hear. And I was reading his post-game comments as well and said he felt great. The bat speed was there and all that. It's got to be a little nervous after, you've been out for a while and you heard it on a swing to go back out there and swing full speed. Look, it's a violent swing for him, as a lot of these Braves hitters are. And so I'm sure he had to be a little nervous going out there doing that for the first time in game action. But again, great to hear his comments after that everything feels good. Now it's just getting those reps back, especially as a catcher. It's going to take you a little bit longer. But again, it'll be a welcome sight when he's here, hopefully bringing some of that power to this lineup that the Braves team desperately needs.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy on this day when you lose a game, even with a couple of home runs. Maybe the most exciting home run of the day was the one that was hit in AAA by your catcher in the first game of his rehab assignment. But that hopefully took away some of the nerves about, okay, am I back? Am I healthy? 450 feet off the batter's eye, I think, has a way of making people feel pretty good about their abilities, and they should. Austin Riley has been working in the field. He's also been taking some, what they call some soft toss to go ahead and start swinging the bat again. Jake, we know that that's the hurdle that he's got to clear, is being good to swing with that rib cage injury. That intercostal inflammation is what Riley called it when I talked to him over the weekend. If they can get him back, I don't know if it's going to happen in the Cubs series, but at some point on this road trip, I know we talked about the hindsight of maybe having put him on the injured list prior. I don't feel like the Braves necessarily had any apparent or clear options in the minors that were losing out on playing time or were going to be the heir apparent to Austin Riley being out. It was going to be Zach Short and Luke Williams over there at third base. But getting Austin Riley back in the mix, forget waiting on Sean Murphy. You'd like to get your three-place hitter back and back at third base as well to do all the things he's capable of doing as soon as you can. And this last week or 8 days, I think, has underscored just how much a big hitter like that can be missed.
And because he was playing so good when he went out, as I talked about, but in the defense as well over there. Zach Short's done a great job up until tonight. He'd done a real good job getting on base, playing good defense. But, Austin Riley, we talked about it. He was looking like he was going to be a Gold Glove, at least finalist, if not winner, with the way that he's played this year. So even just having that back over there would be great for this Braves team. The IL situation, obviously in hindsight, you probably put him on there. But as you said, who are you really calling up? The only one that you might would be David Fletcher, and he's got his own stuff going on right now. So again, I don't really know that it would have made that much of a difference for Austin Riley, but hopefully he is, not putting him on the IL tells me he's going to be back on this road trip. Otherwise, you put him on the IL now, he's out 7 days because you can retroactivate it at least 3 days and you got to stay on it 10 days. So I would hope he's going to be back at some point on this road trip, but either way, Braves need him back for the offense that was getting going for him before the injury and that defense as well.
Yeah, and I think that they, clearly felt like he was going to be back probably on the homestand over the weekend. Otherwise, if you knew he was going to be out for 8, 9, 10 days, you would have put him on the injured list. The other thing about that, and we don't have to get into all of the machinations of how exactly you work your roster now, but it's not like they could call up an extra pitcher. There are limits on that. So without being able to do that, I really don't feel like it was going to be a net positive, especially once the David Fletcher situation kind of played itself out. Do you need a third backup infielder? Not particularly, and they've been able to get through. But if they could have added an extra pitcher, Jake, I think they might have gone ahead and been tempted to do it.
Yeah, that would definitely help out. We'll see if that rule stands as we go forward. But the only thing it would have helped with is maybe in the extra innings today, in the 10th inning, maybe you have another pinch runner for Marcell Ozuna after you use Duvall. So, that would be kind of the only situation I can think of where having that extra bench player could have helped out.
So you're telling me they can't use the wheels of Max Fried the night before he starts to potentially score a game-winning run?
I'm telling you, they didn't, but maybe they should have. I don't think he wouldn't have made that base running mistake. I know that.
What kind of a world are we living in when we can't see Max Fried's mad dash as a pinch runner? That was a thing of beauty a few years ago. But Max Fried, we will see running the bases, not at all on Wednesday. He will be on the mound for the Braves. 3-2, 3.81 ERA, 39 punch-outs for him on the year against Justin Steele, who's off to a slow start. 0-1, 5.21 ERA, but a big part of the Cubs rotation. 18 strikeouts for him on the season. Battle of left-handers. Jake, the Braves had worn out left-handed pitching for a number of years, not just 2023. And I hate to keep talking about the past, but I keep thinking maybe seeing a lefty will be a thing that helps the Braves get their offense going. You put Ozzie Albies on the right side. That typically adds you a little bit of offense, but I'm out of theories and answers for exactly what it is could happen. The Braves are just going to have to get it done regardless of who's on the hill. Maybe they can add to the miseries of Justin Steele's slow start to 2024.
Yeah, I hope so. He got injured. I believe it was his first start of the year and missed some time, and he's had some difficulties coming back. He's only gone more than 5 innings once this year. That was in his last start. He went 5 2/3, gave up 5 runs, 4 earned on 6 hits, and a walk with 7 strikeouts. Most strikeouts that he's had so far this season. Was a really good pitcher, somewhat of a breakout pitcher for the Cubs last year. You look at the Braves now versus left-handed pitching this year, and they're 8th in OPS at 760. So I know they got off to a slow start against lefties, but that's picking up. So yeah, we're looking for anything encouraging to look at with this offense. But like you said, at some point, they just got to step up and get it done. There's really no more excuses at this point. Those guys got to get it done. And
Yeah, I mean, we're at the words of affirmation point. You got to say them when you wake up in the morning in the mirror. You got to mean them. And if you want to leave some in the comments, we'd appreciate those as well. But in all seriousness, I mean, this is an offense that could be one night away, one series away from starting to get things rolling, but it's going to take more than one or two guys a night to get it going. And this has just been quite the role reversal from what we were all expecting coming into the season. But get Austin Riley back, get Sean Murphy back in this mix. Maybe things will start to change. And as I talked about earlier, something special about the month of June. I don't know what it is, but you got to get through the month of May before you get there. The Braves will look to do that behind Max Fried in game 2 of this 3-game series, 7:40 p.m. Eastern time, the first pitch as he takes on Justin Steele, the fellow left-hander of the Chicago Cubs. That will bring us to the end of a very therapeutic edition of the Braves Postcast. Make sure that you're subscribed to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments, share the show with a friend, and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. Once again, Braves come up on the short end of a 4-3 score in extras. They'll look to get back in the win column on Wednesday behind Max Fried, and we'll be back after that game. Until then, so long, everyone.